But I want to go now to former commercial airlines pilot Jay Rollins. He is with us this morning. Jay, good to see you. Tell me what you see when you see this large area where the plane apparently was going down, and tell me what you think was happening when it was going from 38,000 feet to just over 5,000 feet in 10 minutes. What does that tell you?
Well, I agree that it appears to have been a controlled descent. You know, when we first get these stories, there's always a lot that we don't have. We don't have correct information. A lot of times it gets changed. But based on what I've heard so far, it is perplexing as to what could have been going on, because normally in a catastrophic situation, the plane wouldn't have come down that slowly. And if it were an autopilot malfunction or something like that, you wouldn't expect it to come down that quickly. It would be a subtle thing. They would take it off the autopilot and correct it. But something else comes to my mind that no one else has mentioned. This aircraft is highly computerized. Yep. And this is the same aircraft that was involved with the Air Asia situation. There's one possibility that no one has brought up, and I wonder, could this be a hacking incident? You know, this is very similar, in my mind, to what happened when the U.S. lost that drone over Iran. The same thing. Suddenly the aircraft was responding to outside forces. And if something like that were going on, it would be very distracting for the pilots. They probably would only have a chance to put in 7,700, and all the time trying to figure out what is going on.
So talk to me about that 7,700. What does 7,700 exactly tell air traffic controllers?
That you have an emergency. It's not specific, only that you have an emergency, and I believe that's what they actually told the controllers towards the end, but they never said what was going on, perhaps because they didn't know.
Yeah, and Tom Costello was reporting that they actually didn't say it, but they actually punched it in. So the 7,700 was received, but as essentially a text. It wasn't that they actually were able to call it in. And apparently, this is very preliminary, but we're still getting information as we speak, that drop from 38,000 feet to 5,000 feet in those 10 minutes. They had already punched the 7,700, but at no time during that process did they actually get on and speak with anyone on the ground. As you're saying, Jay, I mean, something is going on that plane, that they are far too focused on dealing with it than anyone having the time to call somebody on the ground.
I think we'll learn a lot with the black boxes, because we need to know what they were saying in the cockpit, since we can't hear what they were thinking otherwise. And that would tell us a lot. Also, we need to know whether that descent was absolutely constant, whether there were turns involved, or if it was just a steady descent straight ahead. That's very worrisome.
Why?
Well, again, it makes me think about hacking, some sort of interference into the computer system. And there's been discussions about this for some time now, but we still haven't gotten any resolution whether these aircraft are protected from that or not.
So, Jay, talk to me about, let's say that there is a malfunction, either man-made or just the computers just, malfunction. Is it not possible for the pilot and the co-pilot to take that plane back from all this computerized system that runs and flies the plane? Is there not a manual override for the pilots to be able to take control of that plane regardless of what the instruments and the computer are or not doing?
Well, this is the brave new world that we're entering as we use more and more computerization in an age when people are hacking and otherwise fouling with the system. The older aircraft like the 777, the Boeing aircraft in general, use hydraulics.
Right.
And so even though you may have an autopilot that's directed by a computer, if it malfunctions, you can disengage that autopilot and you can regain manual control. But in a fully computerized electrical setup like what you see in the Airbus and also the Boeing 787, these are aircraft that are controlled by computers. So when the pilot puts in any sort of change for the aircraft flight controls, it first goes through the computer that mediates it and then tells the controls what to do. I find it problematic, actually.
So to kind of distill this, there is no real manual override on the A320.
I cannot absolutely confirm that at this point,
Right.
but I know that it is an electrically driven aircraft, and therefore you would not have a hydraulic override if the plane, for some reason, locked up.
Jay Rollins, thank you so very much for your perspective and knowledge. We're going to be checking back with you, but I want to go now